You've been told that humans domesticated dogs, that we tamed wolves, trained them, and turned them into the animals we know today. That story is wrong. Or at least, it's backwards. Because the evidence suggests that dogs didn't wait for humans to choose them. They chose us. And they did it on their own terms, in their own time, for their own reasons. And the way it happened is one of the strangest stories in all of human prehistory. Let's start with what we actually know. Dogs are descended from wolves. That part is true. But here's where it gets interesting. Modern wolves and modern dogs share a common ancestor, an ancient wolf that no longer exists. At some point between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago, a population of those wolves began to change. Not because humans caught them and bred them deliberately, but because something in their environment made a new strategy worth trying. That strategy was us. Picture a prehistoric human camp. There's a fire burning. There's food being prepared. And around the edges of that camp, just beyond the firelight, things are watching. Wolves didn't approach human camps because they were friendly. They approached because human camps were a resource. Leftover food, scraps, bones. Things that wolves could eat without the risk and energy cost of a full hunt. But here's the problem. Wolves are naturally afraid of humans. Most wild animals are. The ones that survived long enough to pass on their genes were the cautious ones. The ones that kept their distance, that ran when they sensed people nearby. So for a wolf to approach a human camp, it had to overcome something that millions of years of evolution had drilled into it. Only certain wolves could do it. The ones with a slightly lower fear response. The ones whose brains were just a little less wired to treat humans as a threat. They were the ones who got close enough to eat. They were the ones who survived better. And they were the ones who passed that lower fear response to their pups. This is the key to the whole story. Nobody chose these wolves. Nobody picked them up and decided to keep them. The wolves selected themselves. Generation after generation, the ones comfortable enough to be near humans did better than the ones that weren't. And over time, across hundreds of generations, that self-selection produced something new. An animal that wasn't quite a wolf anymore. An animal that could exist in close proximity to humans without falling apart. We have actual evidence of this process in action. In 1959, a Soviet scientist named Dmitry Belyaev started an experiment with silver foxes in Siberia. He wanted to test what would happen if you selected animals purely for one trait: friendliness toward humans. No training, no conditioning. Just breeding the least fearful foxes with each other, generation after generation. Within just 10 generations, something remarkable happened. The foxes started wagging their tails. Within 20 generations, they were seeking out human contact. Within 40, they looked physically different. Floppy ears, spotted coats, shorter snouts. They had become, in the space of a few decades, something that looked and behaved almost exactly like a domestic dog. Nobody taught them any of that. It happened on its own, purely as a side effect of selecting for lower fear. Now apply that to prehistoric wolves living around human camps for thousands of years. The same process, playing out slowly, across a much longer time period, in the wild. The wolves that could tolerate humans ate better, survived better, and had more pups. The ones that couldn't stayed out in the forest. And gradually, over hundreds of generations, the camp wolves became something different. Something new. The first dogs. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Because at some point, the relationship stopped being just about food scraps. Something else started happening. The early dogs were useful. A dog living at the edge of a human camp doesn't just eat the scraps. It also reacts to things approaching in the dark. It barks. It growls. It alerts. And for a group of prehistoric humans trying to survive a night full of predators, an early warning system like that was worth an enormous amount. So humans started doing something they'd never done with any other animal. They started actively encouraging the dogs to stay. Not trapping them. Not forcing them. Just leaving more food. Moving closer. Allowing the relationship to deepen. And the dogs that responded best to human attention, the ones that could read human faces, follow human gestures, understand what a pointing finger meant, those dogs did even better. Because a dog that understands humans is a better hunting partner, a better guard, a better companion. And so that trait got selected for two. Not by anyone deciding it should happen, just by the simple logic of survival. Here's something that will stop you cold. Dogs are the only non-human animal on Earth that spontaneously follow a human pointing gesture. Chimpanzees, our closest relatives with brains far more similar to ours, cannot reliably do this. Wolves raised by humans cannot do this. But dogs, even puppies who have never been trained, look where you point. They understand what you mean. That ability didn't come from training. It came from tens of thousands of years of living close enough to humans that reading human intention became a survival skill. The oldest confirmed dog burial is 14,000 years old. A human and a dog placed in the same grave, the human's hand resting on the animal. By the time that grave was dug, humans and dogs had already been together long enough that losing one felt like losing family. Think about how long ago that was. Agriculture hadn't been invented yet. Writing didn't exist. The wheel hadn't been thought of. And yet the bond between humans and dogs was already old enough to be honored with a burial. That's not a working relationship. That's love. Worked out slowly, across thousands of years, between two species who had no shared language, no shared biology, and no reason to trust each other at all. Your dog can read your face. It knows when you're sad. It knows when you're angry. It knows when you're about to leave the house before you've picked up your keys. That didn't come from a decision a human made. It came from an ancient wolf at the edge of a firelight, weighing a risk, and deciding that the thing on the other side of the fire was worth moving closer to. Both of them were right.